Hi, welcome to the Google Partners Community Hangout for Small Business Week. I'm Kris, your host today. I'm with CJ Hayden and Kristine Carey from Get Clients Now. CJ Hayden is the author of Get Clients Now. Since 1992, she's been helping entrepreneurs get clients, get strategic, and get things done. CJ is a former IT professional who has taught marketing for John F. Kennedy University, Mills College, and the Independent Computer Consultants Association. Kristine Carey is the Director of Training and Licensing for Get Clients Now, and has been helping clients build thriving businesses for over 10 years. CJ and Kris both live and work in San Francisco and have taught entrepreneurship for the U.S. Small Business Administration. The book and program Get Clients Now teaches marketing and sales strategies to consultants and professionals. The Get Clients Now book has sold over 100,000 copies worldwide, and the program is delivered by licensed facilitators in 21 countries. Thanks for joining us, CJ and Kristine.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, that's great.
So before we dive deep into learning more about marketing and sales strategies, I have some exciting news for the viewers. Starting today, you can find Get Clients Now on the new Helpouts platform, where you can sign up for personalized one-on-one conversations with their team. And for the first time ever, we're offering all badged agencies on Google Partners free Helpouts as a way to help you grow your business. So if you're badged, look out for an email today with more information on how you can get your free Helpouts. So, the Get Clients Now system centers around the concept of the universal marketing cycle. Can you explain what the universal marketing cycle is and why it's important?
Absolutely. The universal marketing cycle is a diagnostic tool. It helps you figure out where in your marketing you might be stuck, or another way to put it is you need to put more work. So in the slide of the universal marketing cycle, you can see that up at the top there are buckets. And those buckets are where you are filling your marketing pipeline by attracting prospects, making contacts, etc. All of those buckets empty into the funnel of your marketing pipeline. So the first stage of marketing is filling the pipeline. The second stage is following up. The third stage is having sales conversations. And then the fourth stage is closing sales. And this is the marketing cycle that applies to everyone, no matter what kind of service they may be marketing.
All right. Yeah. Now, the Get Clients Now system, it teaches a combined marketing and sales strategy. Why is good marketing not enough on its own? Why do we really need to pay attention to selling?
Marketing and sales aren't really the same thing. They're really great partners for each other, but if you're only doing one and not the other, you're missing a lot of the boat. And I like to think of it as a party analogy. You've got a little tray of snacks and you're offering it around, small wiener dogs for you, that type of thing, cheese, and that would be marketing. You're just showing it. You're not actually saying anything. You're just passing the tray. And that's the marketing part. The sales part is when you actually say, would you like the small pig in a blanket, or would you prefer a piece of brie? If you don't actually ask, then there is no selling happening. Marketing and PR, totally separate from selling. And if you're not doing the asking part, then people are they're not going to do it on their own.
Awesome. Thank you. And now I'm really hungry.
Yeah.
So you talked about four key components of the universal marketing cycle. There's filling the pipeline, following up, having the sales conversations, and then closing the sales. How do you know what part of the universal marketing cycle to focus on at any given time?
It's really important that you do know what part to focus on at any particular time, because the activities within each one of those stages are so different. There's a lot of attention in marketing on filling the pipeline, and it's only the beginning. So what you have to think about is, if you were going to actually use this cycle in order to take people through the whole process from when they first enter your world as a prospect or a contact or a lead or a referral, all the way through to when they become a client, where are you in your own activities in terms of where all of your effort is going and where it's not going? What we find with the small businesses that we work with is that usually their marketing is going to be stuck in one of those places. So let's say, for example, you sat down to follow up with every single contact that you have. If you would be done before lunch, okay, you probably should be focusing on filling the pipeline because you need more people in it. But if in fact what you discover is you actually have dozens, hundreds, even thousands of people who are in some way in your pipeline. You have their email address, you have their phone number, you know who they are, they've expressed interest in you, they're on your mailing list. Then If what you're doing is still putting all your effort into filling the pipeline, whoa, wait a minute. What you need to be doing is putting a lot of effort into following up with those people and move them further forward in the cycle. Same thing all the way through. Maybe you're following up a lot, but you're never getting to the place where you're actually having a live, one-on-one, interactive sales conversation with people. That's an important part of getting people through to closing the sale. Or, last stage, right? Maybe you're having sales conversations, but the clients still aren't happening. Sales aren't closing. Okay, well, that's where you need to put your effort. So with that diagnostic of working through each stage, looking at you, what you're doing, what's happening, you can figure out where in the cycle you might be stuck or need more work.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any good sort of real-world examples of when you'd use the universal marketing cycle to choose what to do and when?
Sure. I have a client, for instance, that was working with me recently that really wanted to focus on following up. And I kept asking her the question because she was oscillating between filling the pipeline and following up. And I kept asking her that exact question. How many leads do you really have? And realistically, how long is it going to take you to follow up with those people? Oh, it's going to take me at least a week to follow up with everybody. And I'm like, well, then we should probably fill the pipeline. She's like, no, but I really have to follow up with them. Okay, these are not mutually exclusive activities. Mm-hmm. You know, for our 28-day program, we want to focus on one area. It doesn't mean the other 3 areas don't exist during that time frame. You can focus on filling the pipeline, which would be more appropriate for this woman's business because she was a brand new business owner. And she can still take one afternoon, follow up with those particular people that were on the list, and then keep motoring along in the filling the pipeline mode. Yeah. So you really have to get a feel for where you are and remember that it all does exist at once.
Mm-hmm. It seems like it's tricky finding that right balance of generating leads and then trying to close them. What's the best way for entrepreneurs and small businesses to effectively manage and balance the two?
In order to look at that question of balancing, there's a number of factors that you really need to take into consideration. Marketing is not a one-size-fits-all recipe. Neither is selling. The situation is different for every single business owner, and one of the places that I think sometimes small business owners go astray is they try to follow one of those one-size-fits-all recipes instead of looking at, well, where am I? What's actually going on with me? What's going on with my business? Where am I today? So if you're looking at this question of figuring out where it is that you need to put more effort, you need to look at what you've done, what you want to do, and in the middle, what you should be doing. And I think the should question trips a lot of people up because sometimes it'll be, well, I should be doing what my friend is doing, or I should be doing what the business owner next door is doing, or I should be doing what I read in this book last week, instead of, okay, well, I have got 10,000 people on my mailing list, and you know what? I'm still not getting enough clients. How can that be that I have 10,000 people on my mailing list and I'm still not getting enough clients? What is in the gap? We use a lot of cooking and eating metaphors in the Get Clients Now program. So we talk about this as being a missing ingredient in your marketing. That if what you have is you have a gap like that between the beginning and the end, you've got a missing ingredient. What is that missing ingredient? What is the thing that if you were to put it into the mix, if you were to add it to the recipe, it would solve your problem? So sometimes it's really very, very simple. You'll ask somebody the question, okay, well, are you following up with these people? Well, sort of, kind of. Okay, why aren't you following up with these people? And they'll say something like, well, I really don't know what else to say. Now we've got something we can work on. That's a missing ingredient, and we call those success ingredients that you need in order for your marketing and your selling to be successful.
You've talked a lot about sales and marketing getting stuck. Mm-hmm. How do most people find themselves sort of getting stuck, and how can they get themselves unstuck?
So getting stuck happens a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's because someone is not appropriately prioritizing their activities. Sometimes it's because they're overwhelmed. Sometimes it's because they really don't know what to do, or they think they don't know what to do. And so therefore they're sitting in analysis paralysis, or the stop and stew phase where they've got a whole list of possibilities, but yet none of those possibilities are actually being acted on. So in order to figure that out, a series of questions will usually uncover from someone where that stuck place actually is. But I think that one of the things that it's really important to pay attention to when coming up with a marketing and sales recipe is all of those, let's call them personal characteristics of the business owner or the marketer or the salesperson. How good are you at time management? Are you procrastinating? Do you have any fear or anxiety or hesitation about some of the activities that you think you should do or are being asked to do? Are there places where perhaps you're not employing a particular kind of marketing and selling because you don't think you're good at it, and therefore you're ignoring it even though it's probably exactly what you should be doing? Those personal questions are every bit as important, we find, as taking the actual mechanics or logistics of marketing and making selections based on something other than who is this business owner or salesperson, what are they good at, what are they willing to do, what do they know how to do.
Okay. Tough questions to ask yourself.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
What do you usually find gets in the ways of entrepreneurs landing more clients?
Not enough follow-up, not enough consistency, not enough persistence. The Get Clients Now program is, we call it the consistent, persistent effect. And that's the thing that is frequently missing. I know I've done it. I've coached tons of people that have done it where you like really get on it and things are going great. And then you sort of forget about it for a while and then it's like you got to start all over with the marketing. It's really frustrating. That sort of inconsistency also does not produce, obviously, consistent results, which means that your business goes up and down a lot. And of course, if you're a small business owner of tiny businesses like a lot of the ones that we coach, then your mood will also go up and down, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
So if we employ this consistent, persistent effect, it's not literally true that it doesn't matter what you do as long as you keep doing it, but it almost is like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just got to keep moving.
Keep moving. Once you have the prospect in the pipeline, what are the key challenges that entrepreneurs and small businesses usually encounter in getting them close to that sale?
I would say a lot of times people are not paying attention to who they're talking to. So they're talking to them as a generic person or as a lump sum of a group as opposed to an individual. And in my experience, that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It needs to be the personal interaction. There are a lot of ways that you could get sales and marketing done. We happen to be fans of this one, and it's not like it's the only one on the planet. And I want people to be doing their sales and marketing in a way that fits for them. So what makes it not work is that they are doing something that doesn't work for them, and they're usually not willing to acknowledge that, or perhaps they don't know it because they haven't had enough experience with it yet. Okay. There's a level of experimentation that you need to do there.
So you really need to know yourself and figure out how to make
and figure out who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So that you can speak with them in a way that they can actually hear you.
Yeah. When you have leads that you've had those initial conversations with, but you aren't able to close them, but you think there could be some potential opportunity to work with them in the future, what's the best way to keep them warm in your pipeline so that you can convert them later on down the road?
I like to have a follow-up list. I use a CRM, customer management system, yep, as well as a mailing list. So I do both of those. Some people belong on the mailing list, some people don't. So I kind of do a combination of trying to be consistent, which again waxes and wanes, but ideally it's a very consistent mailing list. I schedule like once a week or once a month or whatever. The CRM people, I have them in different buckets, and so they're weighted in the buckets depending on how I think I should be following up with them. Yeah. They go in through the different follow-up buckets. So that's usually an email or a phone call or maybe a coffee, depending on who that person is.
Okay. What sort of content would you put in your mailing list, or would you recommend that businesses put in their mailing lists?
This goes back to knowing who you are and knowing who your client is. Yeah. So you want to be writing things that they want to hear as well as what they need to hear. So it's a little bit of like giving medicine to a child with a little bit of sugar in it so that they can, right? So as the person who's marketing to somebody, you know what you see your clients typically having trouble with. That may or may not be something that they're willing to tell you at the beginning, though.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're combining something that feels really accessible with a little bit of this backdoor action of, hey, by the way, you need some broccoli, right? And so that's how I usually try to do my content. Sometimes there's a PS, so like there's a main article, and maybe the PS is the thing that they kind of need to hear. Sometimes I switch it around, make this the thing that I feel like they need to hear, and PS, here's something that's kind of fun that I think you'd enjoy, so that your brain doesn't hurt too much.
Good balance.
Yeah.
So if a small business or an agency wants to have a help out with you, what sort of help can they expect to get from your facilitators and the help outs?
Where we start with everybody is really helping them to evaluate where they currently are. One of the things that we find is it's a place where people often don't pay attention. They're looking forward at what they want, but they're not looking necessarily at where they are. So what's going on with your marketing and sales right now, today? What are you doing? What aren't you doing? What is working? What isn't working? So that evaluation piece is really very important. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be looking at the difference between where you are now and where you want to go. What's in the gap? So I mentioned missing ingredients before. Are there ingredients that are missing for you right now that you're not employing, that you really, really need in order to move forward? Or are there strategies maybe that you should be employing that you're not employing at all? So for example, we find with a lot of people with businesses that are in any way related to online activity that sometimes, well, to paraphrase an old saying, if the tool you're most familiar with is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So there's a tendency to go towards online solutions to everything, and you may be completely forgetting that there's a huge piece of marketing and sales that's offline, that's about human-to-human interaction, that's extremely important, particularly if you're feeling stuck in having sales conversations or closing sales. So that's another place that we can help people, is identify what strategies might you be missing. Third, go ahead.
Well,
Kristine.
I was going to say, and of course, how to effectively have a sales conversation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a huge thing. It's so easy to not do it correctly. So
It
easy to
is.
do it wrong. Yeah.
Or to ignore the need to have sales conversations at all, and
Yeah.
to think that all I need to do is capture somebody on my list, send them information, and somehow magically they
Poof,
will
one
sign
day
up.
the money rolls in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't really work
Not so
that way.
much. Yeah.
The third thing I would say that we can really help people with is sorting out what is the gap between what they personally want to do, are interested in doing, and are able to do, versus the stuff that's on their list. Are they feeling stuck maybe because they're struggling with prioritization, with time management, with procrastination perhaps, with fear, with hesitation, with resistance? And we can help them sort through some of those personal characteristics to come up with an integrated online, offline marketing plan that really fits who they are and what they're trying to accomplish at the same time.
Okay. Now, I know for a lot of our agencies, they have a lot of clients who aren't within their immediate geographic area, and they can't have those sales conversations face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any advice, recommendations for businesses that have those sales conversations virtually?
Yeah, I use Skype a lot, actually, for that kind of stuff. An
Google
email
Hangouts.
series would be fine too. What's that?
Or Google
Hangouts.
Google
Oh, I'm so
Hangouts,
sorry
yes.
about that. I use both, actually. I use them about 50-50, as it turns out. Yeah, so something visual is what I was trying to say. And then emails actually do work a lot. It's amazing of all the people that we have that are interested in our program or that I have on my mailing list. There's a handful of people that really want to interact with me as an individual, and they're shocked when they get an email back like I actually typed it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're real.
Not from the spam bot.
Exactly. No, I did read it. I answered you.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's how I would.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that when we say email in this context around having sales conversations, we do mean personal exchanges between one human and another human. We're not talking about sales conversations happening in any kind of one-to-many broadcast fashion, because a conversation by its very definition is interactive, and in most cases that has to happen before a sale actually occurs.
Yeah, they need to feel seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
I think the being able to do it via video is a huge benefit. I know for our
It makes a
personal
huge
conversations.
difference.
Yeah.
Totally huge difference.
We work with a lot of our own colleagues sort of from all over the world, and being able to see them face to face, you feel like you know them much more than if you're just having a phone call.
You really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. We're going to open up the floor to questions from the community.
Cool.
So let's just see what we have here. So the first one we have here is from Steve from the community. What are the most important things that businesses should consider when they're reaching out to a new prospect?
I would say the first thing is make sure that you know who you're talking to and that you have in mind the context within which the connection between you and that prospect was made. What I mean by that is, first of all, not all prospects are equal. If a prospect is coming to you because they clicked on an ad and all they know about you is what they saw on the first page of your website and then they emailed you, that's a whole different prospect than somebody who was referred to you by a satisfied client.
Yeah.
And you need to start in a completely different place. So make sure that when you begin the interaction, you know, where did this client come from, what do I already know about them, and what did they know about me, so that you have the context laid in for that conversation that you're going to have with them. And then pay a lot of attention to finding out from them, to the extent possible, what you think they might need or want. You know, if it's not a one-on-one interaction, you might not have that information right away. But I'm surprised very often by how seldom I hear from people that they actually take a moment to Google the person who they're contacting before they contact them. I mean, find out what you can, right, before you actually have that conversation, so that you're not just shooting in the dark, so that you're actually having some information.
Exactly. Where did they come from? Why are they calling me? Whatever you can suss out before you are interacting, it's very helpful. Yeah.
Let's see what we have here. Okay, so Jen's asking, when we showed the picture of the universal marketing cycle, there was filling the pipeline by attracting prospects, making contacts, gathering leads, and collecting referrals. What's the difference between these methods, and how do you strike the right balance between those?
Those 4 different buckets are there because every business is different. Sometimes you'll have a business where the only thing they ever do is attract prospects. So maybe you're really visible online. You have good search engine positioning. You are doing some advertising. You are perhaps getting a lot of readers for your blog. Right, so you're attracting prospects, people are coming to you. Or maybe what you're doing is you're actually focusing on a referral strategy. So the primary way that you have clients come to you is you interact with other people in your universe who are likely to send you people who are ready for what it is that you have to offer. It's not essential that you have all of those 4 different buckets in place. You can get by with just 1 or just 2. What you have to pay attention to is how those buckets lead to closing sales. Somebody who's referred to you is more likely going to close a sale than somebody who you attracted out of the blue and has no information about you. A lead that you actively pursued with information that you have about them is more likely to become a closed sale than somebody who you're just blindly broadcasting information to. So it's to make you aware of the fact that these are different channels for filling your pipeline. You might want to look at all of them as possibilities and not just the one that you're used to or the one that somebody said you want to pay attention to.
Okay.
And I would add to that it can be a little bit of a happy surprise to notice that your business prefers one of those.
Yeah.
I like to think of me and my business as partners, and I want them to be a Venn diagram where we overlap, right? So that means I need to know what I'm about. I need to know what my business is about, and then I need to know what the 2 of us want to do as a partner.
Yeah.
Which is mostly not how people think about their businesses, right? I run my business. Well, okay, sometimes my business runs me. So we need to look at it from that perspective. And my happy surprise was that generating referrals was my #1 thing. I had no idea, right? That's not where I had put any of my effort, but that's what kept showing up over and over. And at some point you're like, hey, if it looks like a duck, right, and maybe I should do this.
Yeah.
And then so I actually started to turn my marketing efforts in that direction. It's made a huge difference.
I'm curious about referrals because we hear from a lot of our agencies all the time that a big source of their leads comes in through referrals. Do you have any tips on how do you make the most out of your current clients in order to ultimately get them to refer you and gain those referrals?
You know, it's really interesting, but I find with most people that we work with, the most referrals they get are actually not from their clients.
Yeah.
So that's a place that I think can lead you astray, is when you're focusing on, I got to get the people who've already worked with me to refer me. Okay, that's good to stay in touch with clients during the course of the time that you're working with them, and maybe after you've concluded working with them, so they continue thinking positively of you and they want to refer other people. That's good customer service. That's important. However, you can really magnify the extent of your referral network quite a bit if what you do is you look at, all right, well, who else is in contact with my target market all the time and is in a position to know that they need me? Who are those people? How do I identify who that might be? Who could be a referral partner in my line of business, in my target market, that I could get to know? And maybe we can cross-refer because of the nature of their business, or maybe not. Maybe the referrals are all going to be one way. But regardless, who are those people? You're going to find that, you know, if you have a partnership with web designers or a web design firm, if you have a partnership with a business coach, right? If you have a partnership with an entrepreneurship instructor, all of the places where you think people are getting in contact with your target market, those are ideal referral sources that could be much, much more worthwhile to you than your clients, current or past.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I want to know who they know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I do get referrals from my old clients, which is awesome. And I want to know who they know.
Yeah. Is there a balance between sort of the referrals from clients and referrals from other parties, or is it kind of totally different for every business?
I don't know that it goes like that, really. It
Yes.
just,
It's different for every business,
yeah,
pretty much.
yeah, it's
I'd
not
say.
like there's a one-on-one relationship on that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's way more organic than that.
Right. Yeah. We have another question from Thomas. What advice would you give an agency just starting it out?
Start with the people you already know. Don't make the mistake of thinking that, number one, you have to start having some success before you let people in your world know that your business exists.
Right.
Talk to the people who are already in your world. Maybe they are people you used to work with. Maybe they are people who were clients in your former business. They could be coworkers. They could be people that you went to school with. They could be anybody who you already know. Let all of those people know, this is what I'm doing now. This is the kind of client I'm looking for, and this is specifically how you can help me.
Yeah.
One of the things I find that people often don't say to someone who they're hoping will become a client or will refer them a client is, this is when a client needs me. This is the situation that they're going to be in when they need to hire me. And if what you say to someone is, this is when somebody should hire me, this is when they should talk to me, and I'm always happy to talk to people like that, whether it turns out that they need me or not. Please put me in touch with people who are asking you those kinds of questions. That's a great beginning place to have that conversation as much as you can with all the people who already know you and trust you.
That's great advice.
Yeah, for sure. If you're new, you need to tell everybody, and you need to tell them often.
Yeah.
And the thing that we see a lot, I certainly fell victim to this, and I think most new business owners do, is that you assume that other people know what you're talking about. They don't. They just don't. Yeah. Whatever you think they know, they just don't. Please don't assume that. Spell it out, like for a fifth grader kind of a deal, right? Mm-hmm. My ideal client is blah, blah, blah. I do this and that for them, and this is the benefit and the result that they will get.
Yeah.
And if you can make it that simple, and it really only needs to be like 3 sentences, that's where people get the picture that CJ's talking about. They need a picture in their head of, oh, you need to talk to Joe.
Yeah, keep it simple.
Exactly.
Another question from Mark. For small businesses, a major concern always seems to be, how do we market most effectively on a small budget? Where should they spend time and money? Do you have any advice on really prioritizing there?
Don't spend money. That's my advice. Don't spend money. You gave me that advice at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Don't spend money. I mean, CJ was my mentor way in the Wayback Machine. I've known her for a long time before we started doing all this together. And I remember being a newbie and calling her up, and she's like, yeah, don't spend the money. Just go to a networking event or get the name out there or get your word out there. Wear a sandwich board, whatever, but don't spend any money. That's my...
And again, that's because you need to be looking at where do the majority of the clients actually come from, not where the majority of the prospects actually come from. And that's a very, very different question. So it may be that you could spend a lot of money on ads and get a lot of prospects, but take a look at what the conversion is. Are you actually getting enough to pay for what you're spending? You know, talking to the Google partners, right, they help clients look at that question, but they don't always look at that question themselves in the way that they need to be looking. There's a funny thing that happens in our brains when it's about us instead of about a client. I see this with all kinds of people who are in client service professions. You know, someone who's a marketing consultant, for example, that's really having trouble marketing themselves. We see that a lot. So when it comes to yourself and making decisions for you, very often you make decisions based on emotion rather than fact. And so you see the numbers and you see I'm overspending on advertising, I'm getting all these prospects, they aren't converting. The natural place your brain should probably go is, well, I need to be doing something more to turn these prospects into people I'm having sales conversations with in order to get sales closed. But that might mean I might expose myself to rejection, and I might have to become a salesperson. And those are things I'm not comfortable with. So I'm just going to ignore the fact that I'm overspending on advertising.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, this is the danger, I'm going to go ahead and call it a danger, of gathering leads online, because a lot of them are tire kickers, and you're not going to know that. And your website and how you do your funneling with all of that, the recipient, I guess I'll say, of a lot of leads that never hired me. And the level of exhaustion and frustration that goes with that is really high.
Yeah.
It took a huge personal toll. It took up a whole summer, in fact. Would not recommend it. So this is why I don't generate most of my leads on one-on-one strategy, that was a better fit for me, which we have been alluding to. You have to pick the one that's the right one for you. So online leads, it's not like I don't want them at all, but I don't put my marketing efforts there. And so the stuff I do then doesn't really cost money, right? Because I'm not trying to do that. And when I did try to do that, it cost a lot of money, and the outcome for me personally and for my business was so small, it was not even remotely worth it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for scoring and identifying those leads sort of at the beginning of the pipeline to figure out which ones are going to be more likely to convert?
Strongest tip is really to look at what you want the composition of your prospects to be to begin with, rather than looking at, okay, I've got all these prospects, which ones should I spend my effort on? That's a hard question to answer without a lot of individual research on who these people are. I think a much better question and a much better way to look at it is, here are two experts sitting here telling me that somebody who knows who I am, or who knows somebody that I've helped, or who believes that I'm credible, is more likely to become a client than somebody who saw an ad and clicked through. Okay, if that's the case, then I should probably be paying attention to something other than collecting all of my leads online, so that I will have some more highly qualified prospects and know automatically that I should be putting more effort there. I think that's the direction to look at the question.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can really, with your website and your marketing, you can really tailor it so that the people, if you are collecting online leads, which I suspect a lot of folks that we're talking to are, you want to really be if they go to your website and they look, they're like, I'm your person. Okay, if those people click through, we've already just saved ourselves so much time and energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks. So one more question from Scott from the YouTube page. Walmart has a whole marketing department. So how is the small agencies, how do we compete with big companies like Walmart?
You can't.
Yeah,
You can't.
Don't try.
So don't try. Exactly. When you believe that your biggest competitor is somebody who's got much more in the way of resources and money than you do, you can't compete with them directly. You have to look for, what is my edge? There are people out there who want to work with an individual, with a small firm, that want to work with somebody who specializes in exactly their industry or their set of issues, somebody who speaks their language. You know, if I'm in the catering business, the restaurant business, the event business, and you speak my language, then I'm going to want to work with you. But if you're trying to talk to me in your language and you're throwing at me all of these tech terms that I don't understand, I'm going to just move on to the next person.
Yeah.
That's what you really need to do as a small firm in order to compete, is you need to specialize, you need to niche, you need to be a boutique firm and focus on those personal relationships. And the small firms out there who want to work with other small firms and who don't want the Walmarts of the world.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And that's what you always say. If you can't fix it, feature it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm small. Yippee.
Yeah.
Right? Look at me. I'm small. Go small.
We were talking the other day within our team about the benefits of small businesses and really being agile businesses and being able to move much more quickly than the Walmarts of the
That's
world.
why I work with micro businesses, right?
Yeah.
5 or fewer people for the most part. A lot of solo entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 people is a huge company for me. And they're not trying to compete with Walmart. They're just, they're not going to go there. So we've got to figure something else out.
Makes sense, completely.
Yeah.
Question from determine if my sales pipeline is healthy and working to the best of its ability.
Are you getting any leads and are you making any money? Is always a good way to
Financial analysis is always a good place to start.
Exactly.
There are certain general rules that you can look at in terms of conversion rates from contact to true prospect to lead to sale. And you can look at those and figure out, all right, how am I doing compared to how I think I should be doing?
Yeah.
So let's not talk about conversion rate from an online contact. Let's talk about conversion rate from the point where you're actually having a sales conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If what you discover is that you're having those conversations, okay, and out of every 3 conversations you have, 1 person becomes a client, you're doing great. So some people think they're failing if 2 people say no. No, actually, if 1 out of every 3 closes, you're doing fantastic. It's a different question to look at, all right, well, how many contacts need to be in my universe for me to actually have the number of sales conversations I need? But if what you're looking at is truly the sales pipeline and not the marketing pipeline, really pay attention to that. If 1 out of every 3 is closing, you're doing a terrific job.
Yeah. A lot of people don't look at their conversion rate. It's really quite stunning.
Yeah. We tell it to small businesses all the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Another question from Mike. What metric do you feel plays the most important role in return investment outside of conversions? Obviously, it would depend on the industry, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I'll give a totally non-expected answer. I'll say, are you having a good time?
Mm-hmm.
Really, are you having a good time? Are you enjoying what it is that you are doing on a day-to-day basis? If you're struggling, if things aren't fun, if you're finding you're spending a lot of time forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do, or you're just working too darn hard, something's wrong. Something's not working right. That, to me, is the most important metric for any business owner, for somebody who works for a small business, is, are they enjoying it?
Yeah. If it's not fun, it's so much work.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be a good time, then really just go do something else that you can just make the money and have a different kind of life. This is so much work that if you're not going to have a good time, it's just really not worth it.
I think that's great advice, and great advice to close on. Thank you very much, CJ and Kristine, for coming out for this great information. And we want to thank everyone in the community and on YouTube for submitting your questions.